The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. Great to be back in studio. I have a couple of very interesting stories from my trip to Las Vegas last week, and I want to leave plenty of time for that. But I do want to quickly mention that President Trump has decided to release a whole bunch of documents of previously classified documents related to the John F. Kennedy assassination in 1963. And we are approaching the 54-year anniversary of that. I don't know if there's any particular meaning to 54 years, but anyway, we're approaching that. And there are people who are reacting very strongly to this news from Donald Trump, and that now Trump is really going to enable us to find out the truth of that. I think it's mostly a lot about nothing. I think a lot of the documents, just because something is being released, doesn't mean it will be unredacted, and I don't expect much from this.
Well, there's a lot of people in the intelligence agencies who don't want him to release those documents, and I guess there are thousands of them. But apparently they mostly have to do with Lee Harvey Oswald's trip to Mexico City. Apparently he met with a lot of Soviet and Cuban spies while he was there and may have discussed the planning of the assassination. So I don't think we're going to find out about any second shooters or any of that stuff.
No,
it could be interesting.
I wouldn't expect any major revelations. And I was actually pitched this woman, Judith Very Baker. We interviewed her, I guess at this point it's been a couple years ago. And she was allegedly Lee Harvey Oswald's lover, and she claims that he was totally innocent or framed or something like that. And I had her on because I thought it would be interesting. But the reaction from the audience was, David, this is a mentally ill woman, and you're taking advantage of someone who clearly needs mental health help. And she was recently repitched to us because of this. And I was straight up with the booker. I said, listen, I do find it kind of interesting, but people emailed me and they were angry saying I was taking advantage of someone who really should be getting treatment. And the booker didn't acknowledge believing the same thing. She just said, thanks for letting me know. I won't pitch her again.
I've actually seen her interviewed on a number of other different platforms as well. And I wonder if she would promote this idea that it was actually Ted Cruz's father who killed JFK.
Yeah, she didn't mention that last time, but that would come as a surprise to me if she shifted to that idea. So anyway, I'll look at the documents, but I'm not really expecting to see anything particularly interesting. Okay, so two stories from my trip to Las Vegas. I was in Las Vegas, broadcasting from Vegas last week from the Mass Torts Made Perfect conference. It's a conference organized by the law firm of Mike Papantonio, fellow talk show host and friend of the David Pakman Show. And the entertainment for this conference was scheduled to be, and was, I mean, when I say scheduled to be, it implies it didn't happen, illusionist, magician, stuntman David Blaine. Okay, now I've always found David Blaine to be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, just a bizarre dude, but I did enjoy some of his tricks and stunts, although I've never much cared for like hanging upside down for 10 days while doing who knows what. I don't really care about that stuff, but I do think the guy's a pretty good illusionist and magician. So I was actually excited to see him. I don't know if you're a fan of his.
Yeah, and he tried to break the record for the longest amount of time holding his breath underwater. That's not so much of an illusion, though. It's just a skill you have to build up.
I guess you build it up, yeah, over time. So he was scheduled to be the entertainment on a Thursday evening. Around 2 p.m. Vegas time on that same day, news breaks that David Blaine has been accused of rape, allegedly a rape that took place in 2004, and the details that were available online were relatively specific. Now, of course, these were allegations that were completely denied by Blaine and his representatives. But at the conference, we were all talking, so if you've invited him here, and clearly he charges a lot of money to do these private performances, do you cancel, but you probably still have to pay the guy because you have a contract, because it would look bad? At the same time, you know, a lot of defense attorneys at that conference who would be the first to say, hey, innocent until proven guilty, these are merely allegations. Would it be appropriate for Blaine to say, given the controversy, I'm not going to do the performance? Not really. So it was this weird thing where 6 hours before the performance, the guy's accused of rape, international news, and he ended up doing the performance. I mean, he showed up, obviously did not mention it in any way.
Did it faze him in any way that you could see?
I don't know. I mean, he always kind of seems like he's annoyed with everybody and not really that pleased to be there. So that wasn't really any different. That was just his demeanor. So a very weird situation. And I was thinking, if I was running the conference, what would I do? I think you kind of have to just allow the performance to happen because, again, he's not been proven guilty of anything, although there are lots of times when, just based on accusations, people are not allowed to participate in certain activities. I honestly don't know. I mean, if you were running that conference, and let's assume he was getting paid $100,000 for a private performance. I have no idea how much it was. What do you do if 6 hours before this guy, you planned it a year in advance,
right?
6 hours before this guy's accused of rape? Do you let him perform or do you not?
I think you have to let him perform. I mean, it's an allegation, and you have to take every allegation seriously. But it's not like he's been convicted of anything.
I think you're right.
You have to go along with this idea of innocent until proven guilty. I mean, maybe it would be different if there was a whole slew of allegations, like a bunch of women came forward all together. I think that you might have to treat differently.
I don't know.
But just one from, what, 15 years ago, 13 years ago?
Something
not
like
the
that.
time matters so much, but it's important to weigh all these things, I guess.
At the same time, why is it more serious if it's multiple accusations, right? Are we saying if only one woman was raped, it's not as big of a deal?
It just seems as if the accusations might be more credible.
I guess.
Yeah.
But again, it implies that this one is not credible, which I don't want to do either, you know? I don't know. In any case, he did the performance and it was pretty good. I actually am most interested in the card stuff that he does. He like ate a woman's wine glass.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about that. I am curious how he does it. He just ate the woman's glass. But I'm not, it sounds crazy. I'm not that impressed by that. He did the thing where he pierced his arm with an ice pick, and I've seen him do that before, like in front of Neil deGrasse Tyson. He did it through his hand. I'm curious how he does it, but I don't find it that compelling. And he also sewed his mouth shut with needle and thread. I mean, it was insane. Yeah.
You ever seen him regurgitate frogs too? That's another one.
Someone mentioned that. I do not care about stuff like that. I really think it's not interesting. I don't know if you're into those things.
Oh, I think it's fascinating. I think I should have attended instead of you.
And a lot of people in there were cringing, but the card tricks I actually find to be the most interesting thing. Anyway, that's David Blaine. Here's the other story. We have a lot of pilots in the audience, so I'm not going to say what airline this took place on, but I was flying home from Las Vegas to Boston, and you know how there are these exit rows on planes that are sort of near or above the wing? And those are rows where typically there's more leg room because it's an evacuation row, where in the event of an emergency, you open these overwing exits and people can leave the plane, evacuate the plane through those exits. So initially, the airlines did not charge more for those seats. But now that those seats have more legroom, even though often the seats don't recline, they consider it like a premium seat. Depending on the airline, you pay anywhere from $25 to $100 to sit in the exit row because you've got more legroom. Okay. However, FAA regulations require that the flight attendants check with the people sitting in exit rows and make sure that they're aware that they're in an exit row, that they're aware that they would be expected to help in the event of an evacuation, and have them verbally confirm that they're willing to do so. And of course, this also helps you confirm that they understand what you're talking to them about. I was about to board the plane, and right in front of me, there is a woman flying with her father. Her father was elderly, could have been in his 80s, could have been in his 90s. The woman was maybe between 50 and 60 years old, something like that. And as they are checking in, the gate agent scans the ticket, and of course it pops up on her screen. This is an exit row. So she says first to the woman, "You're seated in an exit row. I need you to verbally confirm that you're willing and able to help in the event of an emergency evacuation." And the woman says, "Yes, I am." And then this guy comes up, the woman's father, and the gate agent says, "Sir, you're seated in an exit row. I want to make sure that you are able and willing and able to help people evacuate." And the guy doesn't say a word, and he smirks, and he looks at his daughter. So right away, it's, okay, does this guy understand what's going on? And the woman says, "Dad, they're asking you a question." And he says, "They are?" The woman says, "Dad, you've got to say yes." And then the gate agent wants to try to see if this is going to be considered a guy being coached or whether he really understands. She says, "Sir, I need you to tell me yes or no. Are you willing and able to help people through the exit row in the event of an evacuation?" And the guy says, "Huh?" and looks at his daughter. This went on for about, it felt like 5 minutes, but it was probably 30 seconds. And eventually the guy goes, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah."
Okay, so he wasn't playing coy or anything. He probably just didn't understand.
It seemed as though he probably had some level of dementia or cognitive decline from age. So the woman looks pretty concerned, but they let the guy on the plane. And I was seated far enough up where as people were coming in, the gate agent comes in and the flight attendants say, "Listen, we noticed a guy who's in an exit row, and I know right away, they also noticed that this guy is in an exit row. He doesn't seem particularly physically equipped to help with an evacuation. It's unclear cognitively where he is. And the gate agent lies. The gate agent says, no, I asked him whether he was able to help. And when he understood the question, he fully repeated it back to me and said, yes, I am able and willing to help. Total lie. Right. All the guy did was start repeating, yeah, yeah, yeah. And the flight attendants looked at each other. And after the gate agent left the plane, they said, what do you think? I don't know. I mean, it is at our discretion, but she said he understood. Now, at this point, I'm saying, hold on a second. That was a lie. Do I have a responsibility as a passenger who saw what took place to say, hey, guys, that gate agent lied to you. That guy is not equipped. And ultimately, I realized if I do that, this plane is getting delayed. This is going to be a major problem.
You're going to be the bad guy.
I'm going to be the bad guy. Yeah. And ultimately what I told myself, and I don't know if this is crazy and there's pilots in the audience who can tell me, if we get to the point where we're evacuating through the exit row over wing exits, I don't know that 1 out of the 6 people who will be in the exit rows are really going to be the make or break. And maybe that's a stupid way to rationalize it, but I said nothing. And fortunately, we had a safe flight back to Boston.
Yeah, it is pretty disturbing because you should understand that this guy's not going to be able to help in the case of an emergency, even if he says that he's willing and able to do so.
Yeah,
he
because it's not clear
physically capable.
Even if that's exactly what the flight attendants were saying, which is regardless of whether he was coached in his answer, it doesn't seem that he would be physically able to actually help. But ultimately they rolled their eyes and said, well, we're not going to do anything about it.
So had he said no, wouldn't they just switch the man and his daughter out with 2 other people?
Right.
But I guess maybe you lose that little extra fee
That's exactly
there
it.
because
it was
the extra
very
legroom
clear
situation.
That his daughter was trying to make it just a very simple say yes, Dad, because she wanted to sit in the exit row with the extra legroom. Of course that's why it is, because otherwise every seat's the same. Who cares? But it's not. They have an extra 3 inches of legroom or whatever. So anyway, let me know, what would you have done if you're a pilot? Write in. Did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? And we will maybe follow up about it tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.